Welcome to the Embrace Her Legacy podcast, the #1 personal development classroom for millennial women, hosted by Embrace Her Legacy founder and CEO, Maria I. Melendez. Ladies, get ready to evoke your feminine confidence and be inspired to master your relationship with yourself so you can fabulously live your legacy. If you enjoy this podcast, please make sure to subscribe. Don't forget to visit us at embraceherlegacy.com, where you can support our mission by making a donation of any amount or sign up to become part of our community of volunteers and supporters, the Embrace Her Legacy Collective. Our vision is for every woman and every girl to defeat her inner saboteur, master her relationship with self, and live out her legacy unapologetically. Enjoy the podcast.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to the spring-summer season of the Embrace Her Legacy podcast, your #1 personal development podcast for millennial women of color. I am coming out guns a-blazing this season. I'm bringing back someone we had last season, and that episode ran over so well in God's waiting room, and I wanted to bring her back. My girl Shamika Simmons, who is a professional celebrity makeup artist. She beats my face to the gods on my promo pictures. She's the one who's done my pictures, my makeup there. She's an inner beauty coach and all-around entrepreneur, and I say it so much, like, you're so much more than a makeup artist. Like, sitting in your chair is like this inner transformation that happens. It's nothing but God. But today we're going to be talking about the power of forgiveness. But those of you who don't know my girl Shamika, I'll let her introduce herself and we can get this party started right.
Hello, everyone, and thank you to my sister Maria for another opportunity to be before you guys. It's always an honor to, because her audience is just bomb, and I'm just honored to be here and to speak with you guys and to come back. And so my name is Shameika Simmons, and I think she gives a better intro of me than I can, but I am a professional makeup artist, beauty revivalist. I love the inner coach because I do focus on the inside. You know, I do paint canvases, but you know, if you ever have the opportunity to work with me or sit in my chair, I love to work with the inner man more so than the outer man. I just have the creativity and the gift to paint you, but it's more about what God is doing on the inside. So it's just such a blessing to be here and to talk about forgiveness. Maria really got me with this one, but let's get into it.
Let's get into, and it's not easy to this. Forgiveness ain't for the faint of heart, honey. Okay, let's start there. But I wanted to just give people insight on like what the definition of forgiveness is according to mayoclinic.org. Forgiveness is the decision to let go of resentment and thoughts of revenge. People generally see forgiveness as a mechanism that admonishes someone of their own guilt. It is believed that forgiveness is something that those who have done you wrong need to earn in order to receive grace. The conversation needs to be steered towards forgiving in order to take your power back. Forgiveness can even lead to feelings of understanding, empathy, and compassion for the one who hurt you. So tell me, let's start off and just talk about that definition of forgiveness. What do you think about that?
Oh man, I love that definition. And it strikes a chord just to hear some of the synonyms and all of that, just what they're describing it as. And I'm like, wow, to seek revenge, you know, to not want to seek revenge. And forgiveness is just so important for us in order to move forward. It could be crippling. It could be, to me, it's a prison, you know? So we want to be free for all the many things that we have in store for our journey. So that definition really hits home for me.
It does for me too. It's the letting go of resentment part. Like that part,
Oh,
that part is not easy because it's like, oh my. And then also, for me, it's also the part of admonishes in someone of their own guilt. Sometimes we think, like, oh, if I forgive him, I'm letting him get away with, which it really
right.
isn't, which we are going to dive into deeper. So another article said nearly 60% of nationally represented sample of 1,423 Americans report that they have forgiven themselves for past mistakes and wrongdoing. And nearly three-quarters say that they feel they've been forgiven by God, but only 52% they have forgiven others. And just 43% say that they have actively sought forgiveness for harm they have done, according to the study for University of Michigan. So I like that because we also talk about forgiving ourselves. Um,
Yeah.
do you think forgiving yourself is easier for past mistakes, or is it harder for you to? Is it harder to forgive yourself or to forgive others?
Man, I think it's harder. Wow. I think it's harder for us to give ourselves grace and forgiveness. Um, yeah, I think it's for us, we'll beat ourselves down. We won't extend grace to ourselves. We won't love on ourselves. We will kind of replay the mistake that we made over and over and over and over again. And with others, I think that we have a heart to, because we're able to step outside of ourselves to look at that person, look at their circumstances, look at their trauma, their childhood issues, and not give ourselves that same kind of love to say, hey, you too, you have a story too. So I think forgiving ourselves it's a difficult journey for us because we're still on it, and we kind of replay a lot of our past traumas, a lot of our past mistakes.
What advice would you give to someone listening who is having struggling forgiving themselves?
I would say forgiving yourself puts you at peace, and you want peace. You don't want to live in turmoil. You don't want to have that fight with yourself, that inner battle with yourself. And it extends so much open doors for you when you forgive yourself. You can walk through so many open doors um, by saying to yourself, it's okay. You know, it's okay. You made a misstep. You made a mistake. Get back up, dust yourself off, and try again. You know, there's better on the other side. And I think what's so great about mistakes is that you learn what not to do. You learn what's for you, what's not for you. Oh God, I will never do that again. And you don't know what you won't do until you fall, until you fail. So you have to fail, you have to fail. Now it's up to you how long you stay in that space of failure. So you have to fail fast. I'm learning even in my big age on how to get back up and not to wallow in my past mistakes, and to see, okay, God, I see what you're doing for me. I see what I did then, and now I want to be better. And God, teach me how to extend grace to myself so that I can extend it to other people. So it starts with you forgiving yourself first in order to extend that same grace to other people.
That's so good. And I love how you brought God into that, because I know me, I struggle immensely with
Yeah.
forgiving myself, right?
Mhm.
Especially when you're like, we have the same type of temperament where we're go-getters and we're
Yeah.
high performers and high achievers and go, 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 go. Right. And then sometimes I put unrealistic standards for myself. And when
Yes.
I miss the mark, what has worked is like really just going back to, you know what, Maria, if God can forgive you, why
Yes.
can't you forgive yourself? You know, and I love going back to, there's something that says in the Word of God, and He says He causes all things to work out according to His plan, you know, and He's so rich in kindness and grace. So that means He knew all the dumb mistakes I was gonna make. So, like,
Yes.
why am I trying to disqualify myself If I know
Yeah.
the sovereign creator of all things, creator of the universe, forgive
Yeah.
me, then I think I could forgive myself, and it's really silencing that accusing voice that loves to come back and say, look what you did, look how da 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 da. It's really like checking that to say, like, okay, that's not the way my loving Father God would talk to me. So that's something I would share to someone who is listening. So why do you essentially think that forgiveness is so important, and why is it so important to you?
Um, I believe the forgiveness is important. It's because unforgiveness is high. The cost of unforgiveness is high. Um, it's a big price to pay to harbor that type of hate. It hinders almost every door. It hinders, it blocks your blessing. If I could just put it like that, it blocks your blessing to harbor unforgiveness in your heart for other people. And back to what you said concerning our God, if he extends that grace to us and he knew what our lives, it's like a projector. He knew what our lives were going to be at from A to Z. He saw the mix ups and the mess ups and the hang ups that we were going to put ourselves in. He's like, I still love you.
Mm-hmm.
That to me blows me away because I'm like, Lord, you know, I'm a wretched mess, but you still forgive me. You still love on me. So the cost of unforgiveness is just, it's too pricey. It's too expensive to not want to extend that same type of love to someone else. I was telling you before we got started that even when you ask me to do this, I always feel like God is using you through this, which is your ministry, we know this, to even help your host. When you said to me, even with the first podcast we did, what do you do in God's waiting room? How to wait and how to wait well. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is Maria doing? I'm in the waiting room now. Lord, why are you sending my sister to ask me to speak to people? And then, okay, out of the waiting room, then I get an email and says, speak to unforgiveness, speak to forgiveness. And I'm like, well, Lord, we're still working on that part. So, but I know it's only through the grace of God that he's using you as a vessel, because it's so powerful to talk about what you're going through when you're currently in it. And I believe that it releases you out of the pit that you think that you're in, just to talk about it, get it out. So the art of forgiveness, the power of forgiveness is so important. And I think that it made me, I know, Maria, that even with you presenting this opportunity to me, it had me thinking, who else do I need to forgive? Who else do I need to forgive? And God literally started to drop names on people that I needed to forgive and who I needed to ask for forgiveness for. Yes. And so I'm like, God, you're amazing, because we get so self-righteous about what people do to us. And, this person did this to me, I'm offended, and this generation, we live in the spirit of offense. Everything offends us. And I found myself falling victim to that too at times, where you self-loathe, or you think about some of the stuff that people have dropped the ball on you, or, you just think about all those different things. And I'm like, okay, no. You need the same, the people that you need to forgive, you need to extend that same request and grace to ask for the people that you hurt, that you didn't think that you hurt before. But God put it in my mind to say, okay, so now while you're thinking about all of this, call this person up, email this person, ma'am. So when I tell you the power of unforgiveness, that title alone rebuked me.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. That is insane. Look at God working behind the scenes. And to be honest, like, I can always pinpoint a moment where I come with an episode idea. I can't remember that moment with this episode. Like,
Wow.
I don't remember the moment God was like, do this. I was just coming up with stuff, and it just ended up on my list of topics for this season. And I'm just like, at the end of the day, I believe I'm on assignment, right? And I'm like, Lord, I'm your vessel, and that's what we got to talk about. And I love how you said, in this day and age, our generation specifically walks in this spirit of offense. And one of the things that I think is not, it's not it's not benefiting us, is this thing, well, if it doesn't serve you, if something isn't good for you, just leave. And I'm like, no, 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 no. So just because someone offends you in a relationship, or something doesn't go perfect, doesn't mean that's not where you're supposed to be in that moment, in that season. But we're so quick to be offended if someone doesn't like our picture, follow us, come to our event, whatever. It's like we get so offended, and it's like,
Right.
what that's doing, it is literally causing offense up. Like, I think Pastor Stephen Furtick has this message, and it's called a fence, and he literally puts up like little barriers of a fence that happens, like mistake after mistake. It's like it puts now a real big fence between you and that person. So it's really also being cognizant in the moment to not be offended. Girl, yes, a couple days, the Uber Eats man left with my food. I had to literally, I'm not even gonna get into how that happened. I was so upset. I was so upset.
I see where people have been doing that, but I never knew someone that happened to.
With my food, and I was hangry. It was my only meal of the day. It was, and then it's like 7:30 at night. But I had to, in the moment, I said, no, 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 no. Because I could be offended. I could start getting loud. And I said, Father God, I'm going to let it go. I don't know what that man is dealing with. Maybe you saved me from the food. Maybe he spit in it. Let me just keep it pushing. So that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you just have to be cognizant on your day-to-day, not letting that spirit of offense get to you. And when we talk about all of this, I think we're now talking about like the benefits of forgiving the person. And please believe, when we're saying forgiveness, this does not mean that if someone has done something to you, that they do not deserve to experience the consequences of it. So if someone has abused you physically, sexually, the consequences, you go to jail. That doesn't mean you can't forgive them, which we'll get to that in a second. But how does forgiveness, do you think, benefit the person who is doing the forgiveness? Essentially, how does it give that person the power back? Because some people really can't understand that when you forgive, you're getting your power back. People see holding grudges and being resentful as power. They see being petty as powerful, when it's really very weak of you. When you really want to think about it, to hold on to that. But what do you think some of the benefits are of that, and how does it give you back your power?
Regaining power it's important. We give it away when we don't forgive. We give that other person the power. I know we've heard this saying that unforgiveness is like giving someone else poison, but you suffer from it. The poison is not harming them. You're actually ingesting the poison because you have, you still have unforgiveness that you're harboring. And back to what we were saying before, it hinders you. I think, you don't want to give anybody that power to have that control over you, to to kind of hang that over your head by saying, and even some people don't even know that you don't rock with them no more. Some people don't even realize that you don't even fool with them no more, and that you're harboring unforgiveness. So that's you ingesting that poison every day, and that person has continued on with their lives. And so it brings defeat. It's defeat. And why would you want to carry that load, carry that baggage of giving another person, and a person that probably not even thinking about you, that much control over your future and your journey and how God sees you? Like I'm in a phase of my life, like I can't even focus on what mere mortals have to think about me. And so that's why I think it gives me that much more power to beg someone's pardon, to say I'm sorry, to, even if my ego, and I've dealt so much with ego and pride in my life, to just say, okay, eat that, take that away. Look how, it affects your body. It affects, I found myself not looking like myself anymore. I even saw that even people that have unforgiveness, they have high blood pressure, you have heart issues. So your body is affected because of your unforgiveness. I even see like my countenance, my face starts to change, or if you are an emotional eater, thinking about all the people that's done you wrong and things like that, you're eating, you're gaining weight, you're doing the most, and you're affecting yourself, not only physically and emotionally, but spiritually. You're just destroying yourself. It's a cancer to keep that type of bondage on yourself. So it has been freeing for me. There's people that probably, it may take time for them to forgive me, but I'm free because I know that I did what I was instructed to do, to ask for forgiveness, and I feel lighter about it. It's going to take you time to forgive me, but now that problem is released out of my hands. Now that's your assignment to get over that. But I did what I was instructed to do by saying, I apologize. And if I could just add this part, I'm thinking about one person that I had to forgive was my father. And so my father left my life. He was inconsistent in my life. He, would give gifts. He would show up to the important things in my life. He was that type of dad. And, it didn't really hit me until college. He completely moved away and just discontinued all type of contact with me. And so from that resentment and that, and rightfully so, when you have somebody abandon you, because that my offense came from abandonment. You left me, your only child, right? And so from that, how I say it hinders you is because I started to date the wrong type of people because of my resentment from my daddy issues. And so because of that abandonment being there, you start to self-inflict, like I wasn't, I wasn't suicidal. I wasn't cutting myself, but there's other ways to self-inflict. There's other ways to self-harm yourself. So my way of self-harming was I dated just jerks. I dated people that were not spiritually right for me. And so you don't feel those effects while you're in it. It's not until you become an adult or you want to start a different phase of your life. And you're like wondering, like, why can't I get it right? It's because of the chapter before. So with my dad, he eventually passed away. And I hadn't had contact with him for years. We're talking. I'm an adult and I get the call that he passes away. So in that moment, I am the only child. I had to think about, do you think about yourself right now? Or do you think about the God that's in you? And what God had to help me with is not about you. It's his brokenness. He missed out on you. I had to forgive, and I had to forgive fast. And I had to plan my daddy's funeral, gave him a wonderful funeral, invited people. You would never know that there was issues or abandonment. Beautiful funeral. And I when I had to think about this topic, I said, man, that is a real example of having to forgive someone. He left me. He was not a part of my life. He was not a part of anything. And I had to plan a funeral and I had to do the right things by him, even unto death. But they say, honor your mother and your father. So I had to do that. So I'm real big on, God, what do you say? Let me get out of my own way. And I feel like if I had not did the right thing by my father, even though he didn't do right by me, that would have some blockage for me. And I couldn't afford that.
That's so good. You hit something that I would love to share, because I would love to dig a little further, because I think someone listening may have that same issue. You had to forgive someone that had passed on. Yeah. How did you do that? What words of encouragement would you give to someone who has to forgive someone who's no longer on this planet?
Yeah. And when with that, I even think about people that have been abused, raped, molested, physically abused, and you don't have that person to face and to say, I forgive you. That is a different level when they're going on and you're like, wait, no, God, I didn't get my lick back. I didn't get my, conversation that I needed to have closure. But sometimes that closure is in what you do. How do you move after they've left? Your closure is for you. It's no longer for them. They're no longer here. My closure and how I needed to move was to forgive him. And I don't think I got any, pep talks, but it really was just a linear conversation with me and God. Like, God, how do I get through this? This man was not present. He caused a lot of infliction for my future decision making. Right. But because of when you have empathy for people, you start to think about, well, what was he going through?
Right.
Why did you feel that was okay? And you just have empathy to say, well, he was a broken person. He couldn't be there for you because he was broken, And so when I had that kind of epiphany and revelation about that, I said, okay, God, you can't give what you don't have. You don't have the love to give me. You did as much as you could by providing, giving me tangible gifts, but you didn't have the love that I was getting from my mom and my grandma and my family. He couldn't give that for me. He couldn't give that to me. So it took, and I'm still dealing with the process of never having that last conversation to say, Dad, what happened? Why'd you leave? Why didn't you ever say anything? What happened? Right. But I wanted peace, and peace is what I strive to have. And it would eat me alive if I, took too much time and all of my time to think about the life that he lived and why he couldn't be there for me. So forgiveness is not an easy way. It's not the easy way out, but it's worth it.
I love that. And I love how you even went to sometimes with abusers, because sometimes if someone is abused in their childhood, right, and then they never see that person again, like it's just like maybe that person passed off or you moved away to another state or country and you never saw them again. It's like, how do you forgive them? And I think we have to be clear that the person you're forgiving doesn't have to be present for you to release them and let them go. That doesn't mean, like I said, they do not deserve whatever consequences they get, for their actions. And this is not excusing or like saying their behavior was justifying it. It's literally releasing that person, releasing them into God's hands. Like recently, I had a conversation with someone who was really close to me. And he said something that really hurt me. And I was like, and I was like, oh my God, how you gonna? And I got on my knees and I felt that if I was offended, definitely was. And we had said, we were in I like to say a colorful conversation. So the next morning, we did that. I'm sorry, but I was still upset. I was like, I don't know if I'm all the way sorry.
I feel a little tight.
And I had to step away and I got on my knees and I prayed and I said, Lord, I feel this offense coming. I said, it's there. It is loud. But I did something when I said, Father God, I'm going to forgive him. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to trust you with that hurt and that disappointment. And I'm going to release it into your hands. Yeah. And literally the weight came off of me, so that's what and that's not saying that what he said it was me, and people be in their feelings too. So I was just like, Father God, I'm just going to release it into your hands. So that's what's helped me sometimes with forgiving people. It's just like, I'm going to release the hurt and disappointment because we're not being oblivious to say it's not there. God knows that the hurt, the disappointment, the pain is there, but I'm going to transfer it, Father, into your hands. I'm gonna release it and I'm gonna let it go. And sometimes you got to do that 1,000,001 times.
I heard someone say, if you think about it, forgive. If it comes back again into your mind, forgive again. It's like, it's a process. I've lost my dad years ago at this point, and it's still a process where I think about it. Okay, got to forgive again. And I think about when Peter asked God, how many times should we forgive? And he, was like 7 times. And the Lord was like, no, 7 times 70. And that's 490 times. So even though he's not saying literally 490 times, he's saying limitless, unlimited. You have to continue to forgive someone, even if you don't think that they're deserving of it. Right. It's for you. It's not for them. It's for you.
Yep. That part, I think that's the part people don't get. It's not about them being deserving of it.
No.
It's giving it to them. Now, you kind of shared a little bit about a time you have to forgive someone, which is a little hard to do. But I do want to ask you, how do you feel about this phrase, forgive and forget?
Okay. It's so many layers to it, but I could keep it short. I do feel that there is a level of okay. I feel like when you forgive, you should kind of put it past you, because I think that if you continue to let it eat up at you and let it linger in your heart, it's a heart issue. It now becomes a heart condition where you're like, I forgive you, but I'll never forget. And you're like, okay, so well, do you really forgive me if you're going to remind me of my offense? So are we going to get past this, or are we not? But I do think that there comes wisdom in that, because you don't want to be a doormat where you're like, I forgive you. They do it again. I forgive you. I do it because you like, oh, I put it in the past. No, I think there's a level of wisdom that it comes where you're like, okay, I need to remember your traits. I need to remember your cycles and your patterns. And, I'm going to just remember that part. I'm not going to completely forget it, because you still may, kind of suffer from that or deal with that. So I'm a little, I don't want to say conflicted by that, but I do think that there's a level of wisdom that you use when you forgive someone.
Yeah, I think so. It's about using sound judgment. And I think that's what wisdom is, right? So I can forgive someone. Let's say someone comes into your house and, I don't know, steals your bank card, right? It's like, oh, I forgive you for that, but I'm not leaving my bank card around you.
Right.
You understand? Like, it's like using wisdom, It's like, yeah, you clearly can't be trusted. And with that being said, Bishop T.D. Jakes has this quote. He says, forgiveness is a decision, but trust is a process. What do you think about that statement? Bishop always hits home.
Forgiveness is a decision. Trust is a process. I could not agree more. I feel like when you lose someone's trust, you have to build it back. Like, you can gain it fast, but when you lose it and you mess it up, it takes a long time to get it back. So it is a process to trust someone, but I do believe in forgiving. And I would hear this in marriage: forgive fast. Forgive fast, in order for your marriage to, be successful, because you're going to offend the person often, and so in order for your relationship, no matter if it's with a friend, with a husband, wife, whatever, your girlfriend, boyfriend, forgiving fast helps you to just move on, unless you want to sit in it. That's going to take a long time, which, the process comes in. But I do believe gaining someone's trust back is a process which takes a lot longer than the forgiveness part.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think like the one who did it's a twofold thing. The one who did the offending, like the offender, whatever happened, needs to be patient with the offendee. True. And understand, just because that person forgives you doesn't mean that they can just be like you said, forgive and forget about it. Like, I'm just gonna, it's like, no, that just happened last week. Now you have to earn my trust again, right? And that person, the offender, has to submit to that process of reconciliation,
Yeah.
however that may look for
Yeah.
the other person. Now, the one who was offended too, that person also has to work on letting it go and not holding it, like holding that person in a prison cage to who they used to be.
Right.
So it's like it's like work from both ends.
Yeah.
If, like you said, you can choose to either sit in it or you can choose to move on, but it's gonna be like building a house again. It's like, okay, you're gonna have to break ground, put some bricks on it. It's gonna take some time. And I think sometimes what I've seen is people like be like, oh my God, like get over it, like it's over. And it's like, no, you don't know how that really hurt or impacted that person. So they have to heal and process in their own time. And a person who is hurt and healing, it's like, girl, you can't be on that for the next 10 years. Like at one point.
And I've been on both sides where I have been the offender and I'm like, oh my God, come on, forgive me already. And it's like, no, it takes time. And that's where you said the trust, that's the process of the trust. And I'm like, okay, but I'm a better person. And it's like, no. Like, come on. Yeah. And then I've also been on the side where it's taken me a little long to forgive someone. And and now I would say age has an experience, man. You got to experience life. It alters what these very phrases we're using, forgiveness and, unforgiveness. I think it changed for me as I got older and being rooted in Christ. When I didn't have a relationship with Christ, I took a little long to forgive people, or I was just like, nope, mess me over once, I'm on you. I was that type of person. And, then there were other people where I'm like, I love you, friends and family that I've had for years, okay, we may need a little break. I'll give you a break for like a week or two, or even a month or so. But you forgive a person when you love them. When there's unconditional love, you try to make it work. You try to fight and claw yourself back to that person. But it took me being rooted and needing forgiveness for me to really appreciate how much I need to forgive other people and faster than I have.
Needing forgiveness. I love how you brought that up. Sometimes we forget how we out here offending other people,
right? On a regular.
And I had a come to Jesus moment, with someone recently, not recent, a couple months ago, and I was like, yeah, kind of like you. I kind of did the offending, and he said something. He said, you know what? Sometimes with y'all women, y'all underestimate that us women as men feel. And y'all don't take our feelings into consideration, right? When we offend y'all, it's a big thing and blah, blah, blah. But he's like, when the shoe's on the other foot, y'all don't know how to, he's like, you got to respect my feelings. And I was like, what? Excuse me. Like, I got chin checked. And he said, sometimes, like as women, and now I'm talking about that relationship between, and a relationship, man and woman, is just like, sometimes we don't let men feel that. And we like, oh, get over it. Like, oh, he being a sucker. Why is he in his feelings? It's like, he has feelings too. And you hurt them. Whether it was something as small, as minute, you think it's like nothing. And he's made it the big world. To him, it's big. So now I think just some words of encouragement to my ladies out there. Like, if you, especially with your man, your partner, your husband, like if he's in his, let him like give him permission to feel, because a lot of times with these men, we don't give them permission to feel and wonder why they walk around, stone cold Steve Austin all the time, because we're not allowing them to feel. So let them feel. And sometimes you got to sit in, like, being in a doghouse.
Listen, I couldn't agree more. I feel like we feel like men are subhuman, and they have these superpowers, and in a way they are our superheroes in different ways, but they're human. They feel just like us. Yes, we may be the emotional creature out of it too, but just respect and allowing them to just be able to just feel how they want to feel. And I think I suffered from that too.
Yeah,
Not allowing my mate to feel and to have emotions, because I was offended. Like, you feel? All of this is not armor? Like, no, I'm flesh. I feel. I got a heart. My feelings are hurt, you know? So
fighting like, you got feelings.
I'm not the only one that cries. Oh, snap. Yes.
So it's like sometimes you just gotta let people feel. So do you think there's a difference between holding a grudge and holding someone accountable?
Yes, I do. I feel like even the word grudge, it just sounds bitter, you know. Holding a grudge, I feel like you're not holding, well, I'm about to use the same word. I was going to say, I feel like you're not holding a person accountable or even giving them a chance to fix it. I think a grudge is that, like, I'm holding this in, I'm harboring this bitterness. I want to stay in this seat and, you know, whatever. Accountability is being able to approach that person, face that person, you know, let them know how you have impacted them, you have affected them, in your decision making and in your actions. And you know, saying to that person, or whether it's you, or, you know, in this case, we're saying, you know, holding another person accountable. This is how I need you to change. This is how you have hurt me. This is how you have affected me. So with that being said, are we going to make the necessary changes to make our relationship better, whether it's platonic or romantic? Because now I've given you the opportunity to know where I'm coming from and how this has impacted me negatively. So I'm holding you accountable to fix that. Now, a grudge, I don't think you give the person I know the phrase of the day is grace, but it is what it is. I don't think you give that person grace to fix it, you know, because you want to sit in that anger, you want to sit in that bitterness and not allow that person to be better, because you got that stinking thinking and you're good on that person.
Oh my gosh, I think that's so powerful, because I think, you know, you're holding a grudge when that person's name comes up in like your heart. You know, your heart tightens. You like, oh, like, you understand. You physically start to feel it. That's how you know you're harboring some grudge, and it's like, it's not worth all of that, right? And I love how you said holding people accountable. It really comes down to communication. Oftentimes, I think sometimes we think people should know that they're hurting us, and it's like, they are not mind readers. Like, you should know better. How in the world do you think that person should know better, especially if you're just starting to get to know someone, right? Sometimes people don't know any better. People grow up differently, have different circumstances, come from different environments. So you have to vocalize how you are actually feeling. We get away with this phrase, I feel away. You got to, like, I love how you said, like, what you did, your actions made me feel like this. You know, you violated this very important boundary of mine. Like, you have to give what you're feeling words, and then you can articulate it to someone and say, okay, now, like you said, how do we want to move forward? Or moving forward, I'd appreciate it if you know, wouldn't do this or didn't talk to me like that. It really comes down to mastering communication and being, not mastering communication, but getting to a point of self-awareness, that you know what your triggers are, what's going on in you, so you can articulate it more. Because sometimes we just get so angry and so frustrated, and I feel like nothing gets resolved. No conflict gets resolved when y'all just screaming at each other. So sometimes he's like, let me take a step back, identify what's at the root of my feeling, and communicate that in a healthy, sound way. A lot of us don't know conflict resolution. Like, we grew up in homes where we just screaming, hollering. That's just arguing. Like, every relationship is going to have conflict. But we have to find healthy ways to resolve conflict. There's a book that I think everyone should look, called Difficult Conversations. That book really help difficult conversations. I remember the cover was purple because I don't remember the authors. I think it was two authors, and that book really revolutionized helping me understand what people's assumptions are, because sometimes we assume that people meant to hurt us. We go into their heads and we like and it's like, no,
a whole scenario, but you and you.
That's your stuff, sis. That's not that person. So I think that's a good book to read. And in this article, Mayo Clinic said that holding on to grudges brings anger and bitterness into every relationship and new experience. So you may be holding a grudge from, let's say, two relationships down, and you're bringing it into a new experience. You become so wrapped in the wrong that you can't enjoy the presence. You can become depressed and anxious. You feel that your life lacks meaning or purpose, or that you're at odds with any of your spiritual release, and you lose valuable and enriching connected with others. All of that is holding like that stuff is inside. I remember, when I came out of a long-term relationship, and Shamika, I remember what was most difficult about that, and I'll share very candidly, not only the infidelity, it was it was like, now you moved on to the next person, right? And you're giving that person instantaneously everything that I stood around for 10 years for, right? Which was beyond hurtful. And there came a point where I saw him with her at our church. And I knew that was God like testing me. And in that moment, I saw him, I tapped him, I said hello, and I released him. And I said, what did I ever? Wow. And I said, I said hi to him, to her, me and the young woman had shared words prior to that. And I felt such a joy in my soul when I walked out of that church. And even I was walking, I had a different countenance about myself. And this woman was like, sis, you are beautiful. Look at your confidence. Like, she said it right on time. And I knew that was like my moment, that was my break free moment. I was like, God, I'm not going to let that stop me. And I came home and I wept on my knees and I said, God, I feel so free. I get so free. Weeks, not even a week, like days after that, doors started opening up. Doors that were closed left and right. I would not be where I am today had I not forgave and let go. If I would have held on to those grudges, God wouldn't have been able to work with me. So that's the power of like,
can I just tap in?
Tap in.
I'm in. I said literally before I signed on, and I was telling my mom, she knows you, and I was telling her we were having this conversation, and I said, Mom, I truly believe that the people that I told you that I need to beg, their pardon and ask for forgiveness, and I need to forgive people, that doors are going to be open. And she was like, literally, the Holy Spirit dropped in my spirit that as soon as you do that, doors are going to be open. And literally, no sooner said than done. I'm getting a call. Hi, can you travel down to North Carolina? We need you to. I'm like, who? And literally, it unleashes blessings, people, to get that out of you. It's not for you to deal with anymore. And not to say you're throwing it on that person, but they too need to take a page out of your book to say, wow, well, that was very big of her. I can't even imagine what he felt and how the young lady felt to say, she said hi to us and she smiled, and I know you look good when you did it. It's just, it's so freeing. You feel like a weight has been lifted off of you. And like you said, in all transparency, you went home and you cried your eyes out, but crying is a release too. Crying is so therapeutic and healing. And I'm looking forward to the many blessings, and not that you are forgiving because you want what's on the other side, but that is what comes. I was watching Joyce Rogers and she said, the favor of forgiveness. Favor comes with forgiveness. Favor. Good. That was the title of her sermon. I was like, oh, let me watch this. The Favor of Forgiveness. She gave the story about her father. And very briefly, she said, you know, I always was just saying, my father abused me, my father abused me, but we've just kind of glossed over what abuse is nowadays. You know, abuse could be verbal abuse. And because we live in the generation of offense, everything is abuse.
Right. Yeah.
So she said, no, when I say abuse, I'm meaning raping me.
Yeah.
My father raped me. And she said, I took the time out to count how many times because I knew his pattern and his rhythm. And I would say that I was raped by my dad over 200 times. And she said, the Holy Spirit, you know, I'm speeding the story up, but the Holy Spirit told her, not only do you have to forgive him and make things right with him and your mother, because her mother never rescued her, excuse me. But you now, in their older age, you have to now take care of them and put them in a house. And she said, you tripping, you know, this is Mika talking, like, you're tripping. And the Holy Spirit was like, no, in order for what's for you and what I'm about to do in your life and what I'm about to unleash in your life, you have to forgive your rapist, who is your dad. Ooh. And she said she did that. And she said, when I tell you, doors open, but she's like, I didn't do that for him. She said, and he eventually came back and asked for forgiveness. And I had to think about what all my dad had went through. Yeah. You know, he came from a home of incest where it was natural for them and within the family and within the home to do that to one another. So when he had his daughter, he didn't think he was doing anything wrong.
Wow.
So I was like, if this lady, and I, you know, by the grace of God, I've never been raped. I've never been molested. You know, I know that there are stories, and I just admonish you that have been through that. I can't speak to that, but I'm letting you know, forgiveness will unleash so much for you. It's not for the other person. Let God deal with that person. Yep. You do your job at forgiving.
Yeah.
You're going to be immensely.
Yep, I love that. Let God deal with them. And I love Joyce Meyer's testimony, because one thing she says is, when she was a kid, she got saved young. I think she was like 9, 10 years old. And she said she would ask God to save her. And he didn't, you know, and she never understood why. And she said now in her, you know, years of age, now she understands it. And it's like, because she, you know, Joyce Meyer is I believe in her 70s now, right? 70s, so. She's up there. And she said that was in the time, look, to your point, her mother knew what was happening. And it was just taboo at that time to say anything or anything like that. So to imagine, like, your mother knows that your father's doing this to you. And she said, but not to say she said, I won't want to walk through that again, but I can say I can now see why God allowed it to happen, because her sharing that freed so many other people to say, I've been through that too. And it also empowers people to say, if she can forgive her offender, which is her father, which is supposed to be her first protector, that gives me the courage to go and do the same, right? So, and if anyone wants to know, please go Google Joyce Meyer and hear her testimony. And if that's something that you have personally struggled with, I think that would be something to really, really help you walk through that. So we're talking about close relationships, parental, romantic, loved ones, friends. People close to you get on your nerves, child.
More than anyone.
Nerves. And they probably will offend you the most, right? Like, I love my mama, but she tap dances on my last nerve, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You know, so how do you not hold grudges to the people who are like in close quarters to you? Like you speak like your husband, mate, partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, mama, daddy, bestest friend, cousin you love. How do you deal with those people?
Oh, Maria, my gosh. It really takes another level of love to actually forgive. And I would say that the closest people to you are usually the one that hurts you the most. It's never a stranger. It's someone that knows your inner beings, your secrets, your everything, your trigger points, and they manage to offend you or hurt you in some way. And I think the only thing that really keeps me is because I need that grace more than anybody. So I have to operate in that. I have to walk in that. And when it comes to like our mothers, our family, like, you know, I gave you guys the story of my dad. I needed that grace. I needed that love. And, you know, it's so many verses about forgiveness. So when you gave me this assignment, I was, you know, preparing myself for it. And I just looked up so many verses about forgiveness and how he won't forgive you if you won't forgive other people. And I was like, well, I don't want to cross you. So I don't want to be on your bad side. So let me do my due diligence at forgiving other people. But it's tough. I'm not going to even put no fluff on it to make it seem like it's just so easy. But I think when you have love supersedes everything. Love casts out all fears. Love casts out grudges. Love casts out. So it kind of like, it covers everything. I wrote this thing down. I couldn't remember it, but I saw it somewhere, and it says, it takes supernatural love to forgive. It's beyond our human capacity to continue to forgive someone who has harmed us. So in our own human abilities, we would not forgive somebody because we're not capable of doing that. We don't want to. That's just our own earthly flesh, you know, ickiness, where we're like, I'm not going to deal with you. I don't have to. But with supernatural love that we attain and that we should attain and want to have, that gives us the strength to say, okay, I'm going to forgive you. I'm going to love the hell out of you. And you know, and I'm not telling you not to have boundaries. You can still have boundaries with someone to say, I forgive you, but this is where our journey ends. That don't mean I don't like you. No, I don't. I now have a boundary where you can't cross no more. So I think that goes back to forgiving and forgetting. I'm just going to create a hedge of protection around me now. You just can't cross that anymore. I love you. I forgive you, but I forgive you all the way over there.
Not all the way over there. I love that. I think we live in a block delete generation, which is not healthy. I think nowadays, if someone offends you, you just block and delete them. And I'm like, that's not realistic. That's not life. You can't block and delete everyone that
everything
and anyone that you don't like or what they don't say. You have to, I hate to be candid, audience, but you got to grow up. Like, you understand? Grow up and deal with your stuff. You can't just block and delete people like you 6 years old, you know? So it's like being able, again, like you said, Shamika, to articulate it and say, I forgive you, but this is where it ends. I remember there's one person years ago that he and I wouldn't even say dating, like we hung out a couple of times, and he showed his behind off one night. And I said, oh, let me tell you what you're not gonna do. Right? I didn't take the bait because I don't like making scenes in public. Yeah. So I let him make his. I was like, okay. And I knew he was gonna blow up my phone yesterday, the next day, which he did. And before I blocked him, I sent him to that effect, like, let me tell you, I am someone's child. First of all, I'm a child of the Most High God. Like, you know, like I was like,
you know who you talking to?
Like, I am a child of God, and not to say it in an arrogant way, but I'm somebody's mentor. I'm someone's sister. I'm someone's daughter. Would you want someone to talk to your sister, your daughter, the way you came at me? Right. If I see you in the street, it's all love, but just know from this point on, I have to delete you, because what you exhibited last night was some really dysfunctional behavior. Amen. This is what I mean when I say we're not telling you to allow dysfunction into your life. Right. What I'm saying is, I'm not going to hold it against you, but you showed me who you are. And I'm going to believe you the first time, you know? So that kind of to give people some context. And because we live in a block delete generation and we got to close relationships, I just want to hit on social media, because I feel like a lot of people get offended off of social. Like someone unfollowed me, someone didn't like my pictures, or someone commented and said something and I didn't like what they said. How do we deal with this digital age where it's like you can be easily attacked on social media, or you can, the door's a little bit open for offense because we have access to each other. What advice can we give to someone where that's their trigger? It's like some people on social media are very mean to me.
Yeah.
How can we deal with it?
They are. You know, and it's tough to be raised in. I thank God that we were raised before this all popped off, you know, even though we're the first generation of Facebook people, like, you know, we kicked off Facebook when it was in college. But I think at that point we were true to who we were. We kind of had our foundation of who we were. We weren't validated by what other people thought about us or a picture or a like. But I think you have to know yourself and not let don't let these people who are so unhappy with themselves and miserable dictate how you need to live and how you need to you know, go about your life. I think because I don't have that scope, so it's kind of hard for me, but I know I'll be raising a child in this generation that the internet, you know, I think about people that are bullies. I was doing a young lady's face and she had a daughter, and, you know, like you said, this inner coach, the Holy Spirit that's in me, he just gives me things, you know, where the little girl was maybe like 10 or 11. And I started to talk to her as I was working on her mom. And I was like, you're so beautiful. How are you? How's school? Just imparting just love into her. And she was like, I get bullied. And her mom was like, yeah, she gets bullied a whole lot. People want her to kill herself. I said, at 10? She was like, yes, they'll make pages up, kill yourself, you know, you're this, you're that. She's like, they pull my hair, they try to fight me in school. And I was just mortified because I'm like, I remember that part. So there's one part of people wanting to beef with you, wanting to fight with you when they see you at school or when they see you out. And I'm gonna get you because I don't like you. It's just jealousy. But it's a whole other level where that's magnified, where you got to start making pages, and everywhere I look, there's people that's hating me and telling me to hang myself or do this and do that. So my heart goes out to this generation, but I really want to just encourage you to be confident, know yourself, love yourself, and don't let these people shake your foundation, you know. Do the work at home. Don't let school and Instagram and the social media, I think of it as an illusion. I think of it as fake, because even some of the stuff that we put up, we only put up what we want you to see. So not everybody is living a happy life. So don't put your value into other people's hands. That's not, you know, work on yourself. Get involved with other people that are like-minded. Get involved with a mentor like Maria, you know, embrace her legacy. Find like-minded people that will pour back into you, so that when you see somebody saying something about you, see somebody not liking your photo, that doesn't faze you. Or, you know, and just seeing our young girls want to get validation from boys or changing how they look. Girl, I ain't never seen so many BBLs. I'm like, what in the world? The age, I'm on TikTok just scrolling, just seeing these girls getting BBLs and different things like that. And I'm like, you're 20. You haven't even grown to your big girl weight. You haven't even gotten your hips, and your boobs haven't grown in yet. You haven't even had a child, which would change your whole body. But it's just the age and the culture that we live in, where validation is key. Know yourself, love yourself, take time, journal. I'm a big journaler, like I used to when I was younger, but even more so now. I put down everything that is downloaded to me from God. Stay in your secret place so that he can talk to you. I don't need validation from people. I can leave the social media, and I do that. I take breaks often where I don't need it, even with a business, where my business, I have it so that I don't need to rely on social media to run a successful business, because I have relationships with people where they know they can find me, or they can word of mouth, they'll find me. Even people that need to be forgiven. I have a list of people that I need to forgive. And I would really encourage you, take the time out, because sometimes you don't even know why you have built up anger or resentment or all this other stuff that's just brewing in you. Take time, journal, write it down. And as you're forgiving them, cross their names out and throw it away, burn the paper away, whatever you need to do, just so you can release that weight off of you. Release. Ask God even to say, God, who do I need to ask to forgive me? And so he gave me names. Take time to go into your secret place. He'll reveal to you how you need to navigate in this world.
That is so good. That is so good. And I'm very candid about what my therapist said. Like, I got a therapist. What she said one time
That part.
about social media. She said, Maria, when did these people ask to have that much power in your life? And I said, never. She said, so why are you giving it to them? And I always leave that with young women. And to your point, Shamika, we are the Facebook generation. Like, we kicked off Facebook when we were in college, right? So we don't know. We were 18, 19, 20. So we had lived a significant amount of years on this earth without social media. And back then it was very basic. It was a picture, name, and like your birthday, right? So it wasn't even like the like button wasn't there, none of that. So we were still, it was basic. So we don't know what these girls are going through. And I hear them, this is part of what Embrace Her Legacy does. And I just say, don't give people much power over you. Like, they didn't ever ask for it. So why give it to them? Which is, and no, it's easier said than done. But I love how you said journal, take social media breaks. I am a social media break queen. And people think that, like, when they see Embrace Her Legacy, and I'm like, that's not me. My interns are running that. Like, like, I can't do that. I have to quiet the noise, because I know that can, I know what that can open doors to. So that, and then honestly, with harboring unforgiveness, one thing I've noticed, and unforgiveness literally messes with your health. Like, I remember one time this is like last year, I had got so mad and I started yelling, and I literally felt my heart palpitating, and I felt like I had to take a breath, because I knew something was happening in my body physically, and I had to stop, take a moment, and I drank some water, and I felt my heart beating fast, and I knew something was happening in my body. I know there's a hormone that get releases in your body, and I made a promise to myself sitting on a bench, because I had to take some time. I said, nothing is worth this. Nothing is worth my health. And that really tightening of my chest feeling. So I just want to let people know that, forgiveness is an article that it says practicing forgiveness can have powerful health benefits. Observational studies and even some randomized trials suggest that forgiveness is associated with lower levels of depression, anxiety, and hostility, reduced substance abuse, higher self-esteem, and greater life satisfaction. So to know that that's the power of letting it go, that's worth it, as opposed to struggling, heart disease, heart issues. It leaves the door, because bitterness spreads in your body like cancer. And you're sending stress hormone, like your body is literally stress. You know how it is when you angry, rage, bitter. Your body feels that, and your body can't take that. So nothing is
your hair, everything.
Your hair
really is mind body association. Nothing on us is isolated. Like the eyes is connected to something else. The heart is connected to something else. Like everything's connected. And if I could just piggyback on this thing that you just said with, you listed all the physical traits and physical ways that your body can deteriorate from it. Just even generational. I think about people that have unforgiveness. Where is the root? Where is the seed that came from that? Look back at your mom, look at your dad, look at your grandma. And oftentimes it's tied to generational ties where you could say, dang, my mama was mean, or my grandma sure was mean, or my daddy, he was just, oh my God, he was a trip. And because we don't want to be like the very things that we try to run away from, or what we see in our parents or in our family lineage, you want to break that generational curse so that it's not just lingering and the seed is there and you just keep passing it on, passing on, because Big Mama did something, so it's really just more powerful than your natural eye can see with unforgiveness. Forgiveness can be passed down, and you don't want that seed to be a part of your lineage.
Oh, that's so good. Shamika, this was so good. Like, you encouraged me. I'm about to go and pray, Lord. Is there anyone
you encouraged me? You got me together
for forgiveness for? Is there anyone that, because that, I didn't even think about that. So that was really, that hit close. I'm like, Father God, I need to go and ask for forgiveness. And I love how you also taught that, especially with our parents, sometimes we hold them to be these like superheroes, and then like they're broken individuals too, and sometimes they can't even give you what you asking them to give. And the quicker you accept that, right, and stop trying to change them, or in your case forgive and let go, like that's when you can really see the light, at the end of your tunnel. So, Shamika, are there any last words that you want to share with one? I know you are the makeup artist of the year to me. So even if you want to share how listeners can book you, follow you, support you, anything you want to share.
Sure. As always, Maria, I enjoy our talks because I know you bring me on to encourage, but it's just a organic conversation where there is a release even for your host and your co-host. So you would listen, just the invitation alone got me together. And so I just want to tell you, thank you for that, for allowing God to use you. I know you didn't even feel like you were being used because you know personal things about me. And so I know Maria was teeter-tottering on even asking me about it. And I was teeter-tottering on whether I was going to accept it. But to God be the glory, just to be here. And ladies, just to inspire you, release that unforgiveness. Is not worth it. There's so much greater and greatness on the other side, and watch God blow your mind. Once you write your list down, think about people, and you can go back as far as when you were a kid to now, and write it down and release that thing. Say, I forgive you. Even call them out by name. Blah, blah, blah. I forgive you. Cross out their name. Blah, blah, blah. I forgive you. And give yourself that peace. You deserve it. Your generations deserve it. Your seed deserves it. Your future you deserves that release. So thank you, Maria. And guys, if you want to just chat me, if you want to talk, it doesn't have to be just beauty, but if you want to book me, you can book me at bookings at yourfacemycanvas.com, or you can find me on Instagram at yourfacemycanvas, or Shamika Simmons 1. If you just want to talk, you need inspiration, you need encouragement, you need prayer, I am a vessel that's being used in every avenue. So Maria, thank you again for this, and release and let that unforgiveness go, guys.
That feels so good. I have nothing else to say. This just, I've been poured into myself. Listen to this again. I feel like this is one of those episodes you might want to have to replay it again and replay it again. And one thing you said, Shamika, is like, keep forgiving. Like, it's like, if it comes back into heart, forgive them again. If it comes back, forgive them again. Like, Lord, I'm gonna let it go. I need your help. God, help me. I'm trying to let it go. Forgive, yes. And God will help you, like you said, to do what the supernatural can, because in your natural human strength, it's not possible, but all things are possible with God. So thank you everyone for listening, and until next time, don't forget to subscribe, tune in, share with a friend, and always be a woman who embraces her legacy. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Embrace Her Legacy podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast episode, please make sure to subscribe and visit embraceherlegacy.com to make a donation or sign up to become a part of our community of volunteers and supporters, the Embrace Her Legacy Collective. Make sure you follow us at Embrace Her Legacy to get daily inspiration and join our movement. Thank you for listening, and remember, you're enough, you're worthy, and you're a phenomenal woman who embraces her legacy.